I hated this job. Hey everyone, it's Trey. I'm back for another video. A while back I made a video talking about the rudest customers I've ever encountered, but that was a mix of two different jobs that I've worked at. This video specifically is just gonna be some horror stories of me working in retail. Specifically, confessions of a Walmart employee. I can go into detail about my experience at the store that I worked at and how bad it was, and like my managers and my fellow employees, but I don't wanna get sued, and apparently that can happen. So I'm just gonna talk about the horror stories I've encountered with my customers and just my confessions of working in retail. I just wanna preface this by saying I worked at Walmart for 1 whole month. And if that alone doesn't tell you how bad it was there, then I don't know what else will. The worst month of my life, might I add. But you know what? Is it because the job sucked? Or was it just because of my depression? You know? I'm just gonna blame the job just so I feel better about myself. 1 month of working at Walmart was not the best time of my life. I started working there right after I quit this other job that I had, the job that I now work at again, a job that I'm much happier and better at, and a job where I don't wanna cry every day before and after and during my shift. It's a good job for me, the one I have now. Walmart, it wasn't. On top of me working retail for the first time, I thought, for whatever reason, it'd be a good idea to start working there during tax time. I don't make the best decisions, okay? And deciding to work at Walmart during tax time was one of them, but I was desperate. I needed a job, I needed money, bills needed paid. I did what I had to do. I only did it for a month, as I said, but moving past me working there for a month, just really hysterical to me that I worked there for a month and I have all these stories to tell. But to keep this video short, I'm just gonna tell you guys a few stories. I'm done rambling. I've rambled for like the past 3.5 minutes. It's fine, I'm fine. One of the first stories that comes to mind when I tell people that I worked at Walmart and when they ask me how it was, is one of my first days working on register by myself. I was a cashier. I did a couple days of training on the computer and then a couple days with an actual trainer. And then after that, I was on my own. And this was one of my first days being on my own. I'm not gonna lie to you, learning the registers at Walmart was fairly simple and very easy. It told you exactly like what to do, like all the buttons were right there in front of you. If you couldn't follow it, then you just need help because everything's right there for you. It tells you how much change to give back. It's all there for you. There's no complications, there's no confusion. But here's the thing, okay? I didn't know how tax exemption worked. It was briefly covered when I was doing my online training, but I didn't encounter it during my couple days of training with an actual trainer. So I didn't know how tax exemption worked. I didn't know that you had to do the tax exemption before you scanned all of the items. Because if you didn't, then you would have to do it all over again. You would have to do the tax exemption first the second time, and then rescan all the items. I think you know where the story's heading. There was this lovely woman who came in who I thought was a very nice and pleasant woman. She seemed nice, you know, when I first started talking to her. That changed real quick. So I scanned all of her items. 2 carts full, might I add. And she got all of these food items and toys. I'm not really sure what it was for. It wasn't really my business. I don't remember what the tax exemption form said. And even if I did, I'm pretty sure I couldn't tell you anyways. But anyways, 2 carts full of items. Scanned all of them. Ended up being over like $400 worth of stuff. Here's where it gets funny. I tried to do the tax exemption after I just scanned $400 worth of items. That alone took me about 20 minutes because I was new to the register and it took me a while to scan items because I wasn't efficient at it yet. So that alone took me 20 minutes, and by that time she was already getting annoyed and I was getting annoyed because she was getting annoyed, and then I was also getting annoyed because the whole line was getting annoyed. So I was just getting really frustrated with everybody, including myself. I called a manager over because I didn't know why this tax exemption form wasn't working. My manager tells me, did you do this at the beginning or the end of the whole transaction? And I got a little bit snarky and I said, obviously at the end because I'm asking you for help. And she goes, well, that's where you messed up. You had to do this in the beginning. And apparently the customer told me that I had to do it from the beginning, but I didn't really listen to her because I was overwhelmed at the fact she had 2 carts full of items. And she didn't even continue telling me. She just said it once apparently and just stopped and just let me keep doing what I was doing. So really, whose fault was this? You know, it was mine. Customer's always right. So the customer got really upset and livid and infuriated when my manager said to me that I had to do it in the beginning because now she was like, great, I wasted all this time for nothing. And she started cussing out the manager for having employees who don't know what they're doing. And then she just left. Everything was in a bag. And she just left. All the items left. She just left. Guess what I had to do since it was my mistake? They took me off the register and I had to go and put all of those items back onto the shelf. Ooh. Okay. Another story for you. I started working there in February, so as I said, tax time. So all these stories happened during tax time. It was 9:57 p.m. I was there since 1 o'clock p.m. and I was ready to go home. Before I continue this story, one of the good things about Walmart, at least where I worked at, and I'm pretty sure it's like a whole company policy wherever you work, you get 2 15-minute breaks and then an hour lunch. The 2 15-minute breaks are paid and the hour lunch is not. I didn't get my second 15-minute break because it was just really busy and I don't know, I just only got my first break in my lunch. My shift was from 1 to 10. It was 9:57. I was ready to go home. I usually close down my register at that time so that way I can clean my area up and take out the trash and just so I can make it ready for the next person who is coming in after me. Right before, seconds before I was about to click my little button thingy to turn off my light on register 7, this customer comes in to my line. I greet them with a smile, like I always do. The issue with this is that they had not 2 carts full of items and not 3 carts full, they had 4. So, with that being said, I was ready for the time of my life. I hated this job. 2 of the carts was groceries, the usual. But on top of that, they had 2 other carts full of nothing but electronics. I'm talking TVs, tablets, video games. There was everything. But most of them had the security thing on it. You know, like those like big black things that are like wrapped in like a wire type thing. All of those, except a few of the electronics, had that on it. And those things were a pain in the ass. A literal pain. I could never figure out how to unlock those things to get those security things off of whatever they were purchasing. I couldn't do it for the life of me. So after about 15 minutes of scanning 2 carts full of groceries, it was like what, 10-15 at this point, I had to go through all these electronics and get the security sensor thingy with jobber off of the items. That alone took me about another 20 minutes because as I said, I could not figure out how to do it for the life of me. There's this black magnetic piece that goes over it that is used to unlock it, but I really wasn't doing it right because it was not unlocking. So the customer was getting frustrated and I was getting frustrated and 20 minutes passes and there's still a cart full of electronic items that I have to do this on. I just called a manager, told him what was happening, and they got it done within like 2 minutes and then their customer was on their way. And then my manager said, I don't understand why that was so hard for you. Maybe because this is like my second week and I'm doing all of this being overwhelmed every second of my shift because it's freaking tax time. And honestly, I'm getting pretty heated. Is it because Isaiah has the heat on 80 degrees constantly? Or is it just because this job is just so infuriating? I'll tell you guys one more story about how amazing working retail truly is. This is probably my most favorite story ever. It's not my go-to story, but it's easily my favorite one. Right now, I work in a restaurant. I am constantly around little kids. Do I like little kids? Most of the time, no. It just depends on how they act, okay, if I'm a fan of them or not. But for the most part, these kids are reckless. And I don't really like reckless kids because I'm too reserved for all of their loudness. And kids are just too much for me. Bottom line. But, you know, me working in restaurant and retail, I have to just get over that. Some kids are really nice, don't get me wrong. And I don't try to sound like I hate kids because I don't. It's just, some kids are just a lot. So I have this lady come in and she was by herself with 3 kids. And that alone was probably a stressful grocery shopping trip for her. So I tried to make this as easy and smooth as possible for her when she was going through my line. Because I can only imagine how rough it was to try to keep track of 3 kids that looked like they were all like 7 and under by yourself. On top of that, 2 of them were crying, and I mean screaming. And then the other one kept begging for candy. So she really wasn't having the time of her life. Neither was I, so we were kind of in the same boat. Something that I really hate is when parents apologize for their kids. If the kids leave messes or if it's because the kids just won't stop crying, I really hate when parents apologize for their kids. Because I understand what raising kids are like. I don't raise kids. I have 8 little nieces and nephews. So I get that kids are just kids sometimes and they're just so little or so much you can do to control them. I get it. So I don't like when parents apologize for their kids, but I hate that they feel the need that they have to do that. However, this woman had every freaking right to apologize for her kids. These kids were screaming and crying so freaking loud. I had to go and take a few Tylenols after this woman ran through my line and I went on my break. It was so freaking bad. On top of that, her son kept begging for a freaking Three Musketeer candy bar, and she kept telling him no, and then he started screaming, and I thought they would just buy it for him so he would shut up. Deep breaths. So right now I'm dealing with screaming kids, a kid who wants a candy bar that can't get one, so he's screaming now too, and then the mom is screaming at them, and it's just a very loud situation. People kept staring, and I was just getting very overwhelmed. She didn't have that many items in a cart, like maybe like half a cart full, so you know, I got all of her items done, and in the bag, it's cool, it's whatever. So that boy that wanted the candy bar, the last time he asked and his mom told him no, this kid went up to the cart and knocked it over. Here's the problem with that. This woman had a bunch of glass items. She had milk. She had 2 liters of pop. Everything went wrong. So quick, so fast. There was nothing I could do. I wanted to cry with her kids. There was a freaking mess of a mixture of random suspicious liquids. I don't even know what half of them were because I don't remember scanning any of these liquids that were purple and bright green. But it was there. It was on the ground, on top of milk and other various liquids. So those purple and green ones, those was a little bit suspicious. Those are what I like to call suspicious liquids. So there was just a big mess. Thank God this woman bought paper towels and she used her own paper towels to try to clean them up, but that wasn't gonna do it. I just said, look, I'm gonna call my manager over, you give her the receipt, and then they can get this figured out for you. I'll get this figured out, you get that figured out. Let's just go our own ways right now, because I'm infuriated with your kids. I'm infuriated with my job and my life. I'm just infuriated all around. So, that was a fun time. Scheduled to go in the next day, called off. Scheduled to go in the day after that, called off. Scheduled to go in the day after that day, called off again. And after that, I never went back. That happened on the day I worked there for a month. A month was more than enough. I overstayed my welcome there. I was beyond over it. That woman sealed the deal. So yeah, those are some horror stories of a retail worker and my confessions of working at Walmart. I'm not mad at them now, looking back, because most of it was my fault. But at the same time, it wasn't. I'm over it now. I'm leaving the past in the past, and I'm moving forward. I love my job now, all is well. I recommend working retail. No, I never will. I prefer restaurant. Some people say that restaurant is worse, or if you can handle restaurant, you can handle retail. I don't think so, because working in a restaurant, I am a server. I don't come across rude people. They understand that most of it is not my fault. As long as I give good service, which, not to toot my own horn, but I always do, they understand that it's not my fault. The food isn't my fault. Their drinks isn't my fault, unless I get the drinks from. But like, how everything's tasting isn't my fault. They get that. So as long as I give them good service and try to fix their issues, they are never mad at me. But when it comes to working retail, everything was my fault. Everything was my fault. I don't know how else I can make that clearer, but everything was my fault. We just getting the item slowly. This item not being the actual price of what they read on the shelf. When it comes to restaurant, the term the customer is always right doesn't really come into play as often as it does in retail. And let me tell you, I had to swallow my pride and bite my tongue so many times because customers wanted to test me. Even when I knew I was right, they had to be right. I don't like being wrong. I don't recommend working retail. It's not for everybody. Some people enjoy it, good for them. I know people who literally love working retail, good for them. It's not for me. I prefer restaurant right now. I'm happy with my job. I'm happy with my life. I'm good without retail. I don't ever plan on going back to retail. I don't plan on being in restaurant for the rest of my life, but I really don't ever see myself working back in retail. That's not gonna happen. But with all that being said, that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to drop a like on this video if you did enjoy it. Share with your friends if you want to, or if you know anybody who might enjoy this video. Or if you're working retail and you find this video relatable, share it with your fellow co-workers. Share it everywhere, because this is just my experience. Everybody has a different experience. But if you can relate to it, then definitely share it, and share it with people who you feel like might relate to it too. Comment down below any horror stories that you might have if you worked retail, or any horror stories at any job that you ever worked at. I would love to read those, because I don't want to feel alone. I want to make sure it's not just me who went through hell working in retail or working at a job. And definitely subscribe if you are new. Tap the bell to be notified whenever I post. That'll be you don't miss out on a single video. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your support. I'll see you guys in the next video.